As the great Eckhart Tolle says, addiction begins with pain and addiction ends with pain. That's the cycle of it. What were the final days of drug addiction like for me? What was my rock bottom like? Most people that have been drug addicts will tell you that there are interludes, periods, maybe even entire narratives that feel kind of exciting. I had to look back at some of my written material, books and stuff to remind me of the atmosphere of addiction, because now, with one day at a time, God willing, almost 18 years clean, I feel so ensconced in the spiritual life that's about letting go not only of substance dependency but various forms of behavioural addiction, and also, let's face it, the ego itself. I don't mean, obviously, I don't have an ego. It would be preposterous to say that, wouldn't it, while sitting here in a waistcoat and this little neckerchief thing. What I mean to say is that I recognise my ego as a fragment of my whole beingness, not the dominant force in my life. Over the course of any day, I'm likely to slip up, but what I say is that I've got a place to return to, a place that is not predicated by my wants, preferences, needs, dislikes. This is done with, in my case, a great deal of practice and assistance and help. Now, I had a pretty typical addiction journey. I started by sort of smoking grass and hash, as was very popular at that time, and immediately full on embraced the identity of a drug addict with zeal and enthusiasm. I think because I was in a great deal of spiritual pain, loneliness, despair and worthlessness. As the great Eckhart Tolle says, addiction begins with pain and addiction ends with pain. That's the cycle of it. And I suppose, like many people with addiction issues, there was sort of the purpose that I now sort of recognise as being a kind of a spiritual impulse, a yearning for connection, oneness, transcendence, call it what you will, in a sort of working in tandem with this self-destructive impulse. Perhaps recovery comes when these two things can align and weave together into a single thread for you to walk, i.e. the self-destructiveness of a drug addict could be regarded as an unconscious and not theologically sanctioned attempt to annihilate the persona, to experience the freeness of liberated awareness, i.e. not continually existing through the filters of the perceived self. But when you're just a junkie, that's obviously not how it feels. And now I feel like these two forces, these two sources are somewhat in alignment. They are not two at all. In fact, they are one.